Natural Resources Conservation Service State Technical Committee. So welcome to the meeting today. In the chat, there is the compiled handouts for today, and also the agenda for today's meeting was dropped in the chat. Stand by for just a moment, please, while we get fully connected. Hey, good morning and welcome to the NRCS Natural Resources Conservation Service regularly scheduled meeting of the State Technical Committee. So, there's getting to be a nice crowd of folks joining online, and if you're on the agenda or providing updates, you may certainly raise your hand or unmute yourself. Otherwise, we'll look at please muting your connection. The compiled handouts are in the chat for the meeting, as well as the updated agenda is also in the chat. I see we have quite a few folks joining us. I'm going to give them just a moment, and so that we all hear Tony's opening remarks. Okay, it looks like the activity is slowing down, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Colette. Welcome, everybody, to our State Technical Advisory Committee. I like to start these meetings out with just why. Why do we have this meeting? Why are we running this on a quarterly basis? Purpose. The purpose of the State Technical Advisory Committee, there's actually policy. There's policy within NRCS. It's been posted in the Federal Register. And it is to provide information, analysis, and recommendations to USDA on conservation priorities and criteria for natural resource conservation activities and programs, including application and funding criteria, recommended practices, and program payment percentages. To identify emerging natural resource concerns and program needs, recommend conservation practice standards and specifications, recommend state and national program policy based on resource data, review activities of the local working groups to ensure state priorities are being addressed locally, make recommendations to the state conservationists on requests and recommendations from local working groups, and assist NRCS with public outreach and information efforts and identify educational and producers training needs. This is what the responsibilities are and the purpose of the State Technical Committee. I first want to thank everybody for making the time today to be present virtually at this particular meeting. NRCS prides itself on being locally led, and this is one of the opportunities for local leadership to speak out on what are important needs across the state of South Dakota to ensure that we're meeting our needs of our producers and our constituents across the state. I want to encourage everybody. We have quite a few different presentations that are going to happen today, and we're going to be exchanging a lot of information. If you have questions, please raise your hand. Let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what NRCS could be doing to continue to service the needs of our producers across the state. And while this is a meeting that's being hosted by NRCS, if there's other opportunities, and we're going to hear from a lot of partners today too, if there's other opportunities for us to continue to find ways to work with each other, this is a great opportunity for us to discuss that as well. Conservation is more than NRCS. We have so many partners on the call today and so many people that have a vested interest in conservation across the state and making sure that our farmers are continuing to be sustainable for the next 100+ years. Agriculture is part of the lifeblood of South Dakota, and part of our job, all of our job, is to make sure it continues. So please use this opportunity to let me know how NRCS is doing, but then let all of us know how we can continue to move this needle on conservation in South Dakota. It's important for all of us, and it's important for our producers. So with that, we do have a few individuals I do want to recognize before we get into the bulk of our agenda. We do have a few representatives from our congressional delegation. I guess with Reed Rasmussen with Congressman Johnson's office. Reed, would you like to give a report from the congressman?
Certainly. Can everybody hear and see me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Well, thanks for hosting us all today, and thanks for the opportunity. You know, I'll probably keep it pretty brief and leave a brief, you know, a little bit of time open for questions if anybody has any. Largely right now, the main topic for our office today is continuing resolution and funding, since that comes to an end here Friday at midnight, I believe. A big portion of that is talks and work on a farm bill extension provided. In that, of course, the House had worked on their version of the House Farm Bill here for 2024. That was not a farm bill was not completed, unfortunately. So we're looking forward here to the next session where we're able to work with our Senate Majority Leader, Senator Thune, who's a friendly ally to all things Farm Bill and a great partner with our office. But for right now, we're just kind of looking forward to the next session. I don't believe we're expecting too many major shakeups on the policy side of things. Just, you know, while we do have the majority in the House and the Senate looking forward here, it's not a, you know, a major majority. So we'll be, you know, as always, the Farm Bill is quite bipartisan, with a lot of Republicans and Democrats voting together for things like the nutrition portion of the Farm Bill, conservation, and the commodity titles. But you know, that's really the gist of it right now. We're trying to keep things together as we're looking forward to more substantial policy changes next session.
All right, thank you so much, Reed. We also have Ashlyn with Senator Thune's office.
Hey folks, thanks for having me on. And yeah, so as Reed had mentioned, obviously Senator Thune will take over his role as Majority Leader come January 3rd as we walk through the last, hopefully, week here, working on a continuing resolution, so funding the government until likely March 14th. So those levels have been set, as I think you guys have seen in the media. Folks are continuing to negotiate over some farm disaster aid, economic aid, a one-year farm bill extension that'll go till September 30th, and then some conversations about year-round E15 and otherwise. As we move into the next Congress, Senator Thune will remain on the Ag Committee. Our role changes a little bit, and so as you know, he takes on the role of Majority Leader, his job changes a bit, but our priorities remain the same, as I think I've had conversations with most of you about. So as we can be helpful, please keep us in the loop, and I promise I'll keep you all apprised as we move forward on the funding package, hopefully here today. But if anyone has any questions, please just let me know.
Ashlyn, thank you so much. Really do appreciate the update. Excited to hear that the senator is going to remain on the Ag Committee. And Shelby, representative from Senator Brown's office. Do you have any updates for us today?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. The last two really, I think, summed up basically what we're dealing with here in Senator Brown's office as well. You know, just looking for that CR, and if you have any questions for me too in our office, feel free to ask them.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Really do appreciate it. And appreciate all of our representatives from our delegates coming and being a part of this meeting. It really does mean a lot. I also heard that we have Kevin on the line, Kevin Roebling, Secretary of Game Fish and Parks. Kevin, do you have anything you'd like to share with us this morning?
Well, thank you, Tony. Good morning, folks. Yes, I just wanted to give a recap of our licensing year here. We just finished up our licensing year a couple days ago. We had a phenomenal year. Hunters came to our state in large numbers. We sold a ton of fishing licenses. I think overall we're up about 5%. And this last year, our last licensing year, we sold 190,000 licenses to hunt pheasants to non-residents and residents. That's the most licenses we sold since 2015, and it's a testament to all the work we're doing on the landscape. It's habitat and access is really what it comes down to. I can't thank the partners on this call enough. We're making a difference. We're moving the needle. Conservation's real in South Dakota. Grassland management, establishing new grass, perennial grass plantings, all of that we're all working on together is paying off. It's paying dividends. We're seeing it in our wildlife populations. Hunters and conservationists are noticing that effort and that work, and I just can't thank all the folks on this call enough. NRCS, you've been great to work with as well. Let's keep the momentum rolling. That's the message, hopefully, of today is we're doing a lot of great things out on the landscape. We're working with a ton of awesome producers. Just keep that momentum rolling into 2025. So, yeah, it's a good story here from South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, and we're very proud of the year we had. I want to thank all the staff on this call for making it happen. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Really do appreciate it. Really appreciate the partnership. We have a longstanding partnership with Game Fish and Parks, and we would not be able to get half of what we get done without the assistance of all your folks. Kevin, really do appreciate the help.
Thank you, sir. Goes both ways. Appreciate yours. Thank you.
So we do have a couple of guest presentations before we jump into, I guess, my presentation. So I'm going to hand this back to you, Colette.
Great, thank you. Okay, so today I have the pleasure. So I'm Colette Kessler, the Assistant State Conservationist for Partnerships for NRCS South Dakota. And I have the pleasure of introducing one of our partners for a lot of great work across South Dakota. So with this, I'm going to introduce Crystal Smith with the South Dakota Farm Bureau. And let's go ahead and turn on your camera, and you may certainly share your screen for your presentation. And we'll...
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Colette. And I do want to thank for this personal privilege. I visited with Colette yesterday at a different meeting, and I was sharing with her that I have another obligation at 11 o'clock today. And so she was kind enough to put me early on the agenda today. I didn't realize, Tony, that I was bumping your presentation. So I feel a little embarrassed about that. So thank you.
No, I appreciate you coming up.
All right. Well, thank you. And I will stay on the call as long as I can today, but I do need to exit a little bit early. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. It has been a little while since we've had a chance to give an update on South Dakota Farm Bureau's Wetland Mitigation Bank program. I want to say it's probably been 4 or 5 years since we've had a chance to give an update. So I thank everyone for the opportunity. I'm going to try to share my PowerPoint here, and we'll just see. Let me see. I'm not super tech savvy.
In the upper right, there's a share button.
Yeah, and here, let's see. I want to find, like my desktop here. It's just looking at my Chrome tab. Sorry. I'm sorry.
While you're working on that, we've had some really great success with this partnership. And I'm really glad that you could join us today for helping with people to realize the good things that are happening around the wetland ecosystem.
Yes, it has been a very successful program, and we've been working on it for a long time. maybe you can give me a little feedback here. So I'm just looking at it's only giving me the options to save on my Chrome tab or like to share from my actual,
How about, do you want to, maybe drop it in the chat and I'll try opening it? We'll try it here.
okay. Let's see if I can do that. I'm sorry, we should have practiced this ahead of time. I don't mean to take up too much time here.
That's all right. We, yesterday was the South Dakota Agriculture Unity, annual meeting in Mitchell, so we attended there. And I know people are going crazy with their calendars this time of year, so don't worry about that.
Send it to you personally, Colette, if it's not too big. Okay, it should be on its way to you. So let's see if you're able to receive it. And then in the meantime, and this will allow me to maybe cruise through a couple of slides while we see if Colette's able to receive it. So first, I think I'll just start off by introducing myself. So those of you who may not know me, I'm Crystal Smith. I'm the Executive Director of South Dakota Farm Bureau. I've been on board with the organization really at the beginning of when we started the Wetland Mitigation Program, which was in 2016. And before I get started, I do really just want to thank obviously our partnership with USDA NRCS nationally, because this is where we've received our funding through grant awards. And so obviously we've been working with the national USDA for the funding, but we would not be able to run this program without our relationships and our partnerships with our state program, partners. Currently, Tony is the person that signs off on all of the bank site plans that, kind of run through the office there. But on the ground, we work very closely with Deke Hobick, and we really appreciate his attention to our program and his guidance and really all the attention that he gives our consultants and our technicians that we work with, as well as just all the way down to Tammy Burmeister works with my team and staff to kind of make sure all of the paperwork gets signed. So there's kind of a sometimes multiple times during the week that we are sending emails back and forth. And so we really appreciate the efficiency of the offices kind of working back and forth on these things. And Deke promised that he would handle all the technical questions today. So if there's any questions, I'm not the technical person. So hopefully if he can field any of the tough questions today. Were you able to receive the email, Colette?
It has not come through.
Oh, shoot.
So that is not.
Why? Okay, so I'm really sorry, guys. Technology is great when it works, right? So you think I can upload this to the chat?
Well, let's give it a shot.
So is that just a matter of dropping it in there, you said? I'm sorry.
You try drag and drop, and there is a little plus sign down there that says to attach a file.
Okay, let's see. Hang on. I really apologize, everyone, for this.
Hey, Colette. Sorry, Colette, I lost my voice, but if you want, I could give my little spiel. Segues into mitigation banking.
Oh, certainly, Dee. I didn't recognize your
Yeah.
Yes, that would be great. If you would like to speak up while Crystal's getting her presentation into the chat, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I got two voices, John Dutton or Scratchy Scratchy. So that's about it. But I'll share my screen here. Let me know when you can see it.
No, still can't be.
Oh,
Yeah. All right, there we go. Y'all see it okay?
Loading. Hopefully it's going to show up.
yes.
Well, I can
And it's
see it
possible that our internet is so slow here. Does anybody else out there see it yet?
Nothing's showing up out here yet, Tony, either.
well. You know, it's pretty much what you got in that packet if you open that up out of the chat. Basically, I can go over like the wetland determinations. You know, we're sitting around 276 of them outstanding. Thus far this fiscal year, we've completed 89. We got 50 potential violations sitting out there. The work's mainly in the east. It shifts around north to south. You know, you got some counties with nothing, some counties with 24 to 25, 30 determinations to do. So it's about normal, you know, what I'd expect for about now. Workload's always within 4 months. We have some outliers, no doubt, but majority of it sits there within 4, even less than that. I mean, most people are getting them out the door within a week or two. Kick me out.
There we go.
Yes.
You still see me?
Yeah, we see you.
All right.
Is that the presentation you're looking for, Deke?
Yeah.
Matthew.
SDA, you know, the highly erodible land determinations. This was the wetland ones. You can kind of see where we're sitting. Nothing out of the ordinary. Highly erodible land, about the same thing. A little obviously more out west, but these are all of our HEL determinations that we work with. So 221 that are outstanding, but we've done 244 since October 1. So kind of cranking those out. And then this was the mitigation banking transaction summary. And I put this in the packet because I want you all to kind of see what banks are out there since we haven't talked about them for quite a while. And then within that, you can kind of see the deposits. Those, when it says deposit, that's like when the bank plan is signed, they get so many credits available, acre and functional, and then they'll withdraw. Establishment, there's another deposit of credits, and then that goes through annual monitorings, which have been very, very good annual monitorings we've been getting. So you can appreciate the effort they're putting into that. But you can go through each bank, Grace Bank, Morgan Bank, and then you can kind of see, you know, the proposed, you know, acres next to each bank. That's how many are supposed to be, you know, at the very end, you know, with establishment. That's what they're figuring is going to be. Or sell that for sure. And then the geographic service area, you can see where it was located and then where credits have been purchased. So there's a few geographic service area credit purchases that are out of the, not in the same GSA as the bank, but they're pretty much in the same eco region is what we always keep it in for sure. Kind of go through them all there, and you can look at them. If you got questions, please ask. It's obviously one of those days where I lose my voice and everybody wants to call and talk. So
we are putting the chat, this the compiled handout back in the chat again. There was someone that messaged that says that it didn't come true for them. So we're putting the compiled notes back in the chat as well as the agenda. And then Crystal, good news is that your presentation did come through.
Good. All right.
So what we'll do here.
thanks everyone.
And thanks, Deke. That was a great summary. And actually, you have a very logical way of how you've shared that. Um, there will be just a tiny bit of repeat and in how you shared the transactions, which will not be a lot, but I'll be able to summarize kind of overall all the credits. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Colette. And I'm going to be able to advance the slides. Is that right?
I think it's-
Or will you need to do that?
Okay, I'll, if you just would take the next slide, I'll take it for you.
You'll move on. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead to the next slide. I'll just do kind of a really high level. So obviously, Farm Bureau is the sponsor of the wetland mitigation program. When we first started, our goals were to work with owners to establish ag wetland banks on their properties by restoring, enhancing, or creating wetland functions and values. The secondary goal is to provide solutions for landowners who need wetland credits or compliance or for compliance or productivity reasons. So go ahead. So we began this process by signing the first USDA NRCS grant agreement on December 29th in 2016 to develop a wetland mitigation banking program in South Dakota. And if you continue on to the next slide, in February of 2018, that first grant allowed us to develop an umbrella mitigation banking instrument. And that was signed between Farm Bureau and NRCS. And what that umbrella instrument really did was it really set the parameters and the rules on how wetland mitigation banking is operated and implemented in South Dakota. It's really kind of a groundbreaking system in the state, but actually was used as a template for surrounding states for how ag wetland mitigation is done really in other areas. So it's kind of a cool thing that South Dakota came up with this umbrella instrument that's really looked at as a model for others to use. It was developed with input from other ag organizations and conservation groups during 2017, and it went through a really robust process that the state technical committee had an opportunity to provide input. And so lots of stakeholder groups were able to look at this instrument and provide a lot of feedback so that once this was finished, it really had all the feedback and the vetting by all the groups within South Dakota. So go ahead and go to the next slide. The second grant that we applied for was awarded in 2020, and we're actually wrapping up the final report for that grant this month. And then we applied for a third grant, and we are currently working against the funds of that grant, and we began that earlier this year. Next slide. So together with NRCS and our consultant and engineering partners, we provide assistance to those who are seeking to restore or create wetlands and purchase available credits. So our in-state wetland consultant is Brian Top with Top Soil Consulting. He really is our in-state person that works directly with farmers. He does some of the site selection work. He meets with individual producers to kind of look at their sites, and he also is the agent that works with individuals to help facilitate credit sales. Stantec Engineering is based out of Minneapolis, and they are they do a lot of the technical work in the bank site plan development. So, in talking about what the actual wetland exchange process is, basically this provides farmers with the ability to sell and buy credits to offset the loss of a wetland. Through this process, as we already said, we connect potential buyers with available credits, and we work with landowners to essentially create credits in areas where there's needs. And as Deke already mentioned, there's basically geographical service areas or watershed areas that we develop these mitigated wetland sites. And that's where the credits are targeted to be sold within. But occasionally we do go outside of those service areas once they're approved by Tony and Deke. It's important to note that there is a zero net loss of wetlands. So you cannot impact a wetland or offset or drain a wetland and lose that area. So this program, I think it's always sort of an important point to make is that as we're going through this process, that we don't lose any acres of wetland. That is never anything that people have to worry about. That we're impacting actual habitat or area of wetland. So again, the grant funds that we've been awarded are very specific for what we can use those for. So they're used to pay for the technical work that we pay our partners, Topsoil and Stantec, for site selection, bank site plans. We utilize those grant funds for marketing and other information efforts. And those the grant funds are utilized for some administrative work that Farm Bureau does as well. But for the most part, they're dedicated to the technical work to do the exploration of whether or not a bank site is viable to do the mitigation plan. The next slide. So just kind of talking about the process of once the bank site plan is developed by Stantec, it's then sent out for public comment to the state technical committee. So we send it on to Deke and Deke reviews it, and then it's sent on for public comment so that the plans have a lot of very detailed information regarding the restoration and creation of the wetland, which would allow it to produce the wetland credits. So then once that process takes place, it's the 30-day comment period. If there are any changes that are required to the bank site plan, that comes back to our experts, our engineers. We make any necessary changes to that bank site plan. And then once that bank site plan is approved, that triggers the first release of credits. And so that's basically on what we usually refer to it. It's not 100% this way, but 30% of the credits are usually released upon the approval of the bank site plan. So once that first third of credits are released, they can then be sold to interested buyers. So once those wetland credits are released, they can be sold to egg producers who might need to convert wetlands, but also need to perhaps meet the wetland conservation compliance requirements of the Farm Bill. So there's different potential needs that people might be interested in purchasing wetland credits. Next slide. So our responsibility from South Dakota Farm Bureau, or our partners in this process, again, as I've kind of already touched on this, we take the time to investigate potential bank sites and estimate the credit yield. We prepare the bank site plans. We work with NRCS for the approval of the bank site plans. We do the oversight of the implementation of the bank site. So this includes the restoration, vegetation establishment, etc. We work with the credit marketing and sales, and we keep track of the credit ledger Obviously, DEEC does some of that as well, but we track that to make sure that this is all, the checks and balances are there. We'll talk in a little bit about the long-term management of the mitigation bank, but we also, make sure that there are financial assurances within basically that operational life of the newly created wetland. And then these warranty easement deeds, this is just as we establish the mitigated wetland as well. And then in the next slide, we'll talk about what the landowner host responsibilities are. And basically this just allows the landowner needs to allow us access to the site to conduct our investigations. And again, they will sign this warranty easement deed. They are responsible for completing the restoration work. So as I mentioned before, once the bank site plan is initially approved, and that triggers the release of the first 30 or first third of the credits, they then need to perform the restoration work. And once they do some of that and get some of the establishment of the vegetation done, that will trigger the next set of credits to be released. And that all has to, again, be monitored. And our engineering firm has to go out and actually evaluate that and make sure that the vegetation has been established and meet the specific criteria that those things are happening the way that we expect them to. And so that that next set of credits will not be released until that has actually occurred. And so, the landowner has to agree to let our experts come back out to the land to make those assessments. So in addition to that, the landowner does pay the costs associated with the restoration construction and the vegetation establishment. So those costs are not covered by the federal grant. They also must provide the documentation of these costs to Farm Bureau because these are considered in-kind costs against the grant. And so they also have to fund the monitoring of the bank site and maintenance work during the establishment period. So we'll keep going on. I know that gets a little bit technical, but if you have any questions afterwards, we're happy to answer that. So this is how we've kind of set up the program in terms of how we talk to landowners about the value proposition of hosting a host site. So the proposed credit revenue allocation is split in this format. So basically, the landowner host has the opportunity to receive 80% of all credit sales. You see there where we talk about the financial assurance for operational life fund. Basically, that just says that they will take on, it's required within the umbrella instrument that we have to have an assurance during the process of establishing the bank site that if anything would happen, that if something would fall apart, that we would still be able to sort of ensure that the investment in that would be protected. So the landowner host has to make sure that they have some sort of insurance over that process. So if they agree to that, they will receive 80% of the sale of any credit that is produced from the mitigated wetland site. South Dakota Farm Bureau owns the credits. We are the owner of the credits that are produced because we are the sponsor of the grant and of the program. And for that, we receive 20% of the credit sales. But of that 20%, 12% goes into the long-term management fund for that particular wetland. And that 12% goes directly into the South Dakota Community Foundation. And that 12% is held in 2 separate funds, and those funds are interest bearing, and we don't touch that money because that money is dedicated to the protection of each one of those mitigated wetlands on those sites for 2 different reasons. One is a catastrophic fund. That would be if there was an act of God, like some sort of major flooding event or some catastrophic situation that would completely wipe out any one particular mitigated wetland, and we would need to go in and totally redevelop that wetland. We would need to have enough money in that fund to redevelop that site. And so the money that is developed in that catastrophic fund is dedicated to that and will remain in the South Dakota Community Foundation forever, and it will be held there long term. And then the other interest-bearing account is basically held there for long-term monitoring. So we'll get into a few more of those details later on in the slides. For now, let's go on. So just we've already talked a little bit about the geographical service areas and I'll skip past this because Deke has already kind of talked about this. So we currently have 7 approved wetland mitigation sites in 5 geographical service areas, and those sites are located in the Minnesota, the Lower Big Sioux, the Vermilion, the Middle James, and the Upper James. And you can go on. So of the 7 approved bank sites, 2 of those sites have reached maturity, and all 45.1 acres of the credits have been sold. So maturity just means that they have met all 3 wetland criteria, which means they have been shown to have hydric soil, hydric vegetation, and have the required hydrology. Again, 4 of the sites are in development, monitoring, and credit release phase. These 4 sites have sold 137.3 acres and have already been released, and have an additional 38.5 acres, which will be released as the sites meet this additional wetland criteria. And if you go on, one site that we're pretty excited about and is kind of still in the stages of finalizing this plan, but the remaining approved bank site plan contains 31 acres of credits. This site is adjacent to a national wildlife refuge, and the owner desires to gift the land to the Fish and Wildlife that owned refuge after the wetlands have been fully restored. And so this whole wetland will be then given to Fish and Wildlife to oversee long-term, and it will be donated to this National Wildlife Refuge eventually. So that's pretty exciting. They will, have the opportunity to have this long-term protected within their refuge. So if you go on, just kind of click through here. So credit sales to date, many of you may know this, but if you don't, 1 acre equals 1 credit. So every time we talk about selling a credit, that is equal to 1 acre. Sales have ranged from the beginning when we first started to about $16,000 per credit or per acre to over $30,000. Right now we have credits that are priced, I think, for sale at, I think the latest credit sale is priced around $36,000 a credit. Oh, it looks like we got a duplicate there. Okay, and we already talked about this. I think we can go, that was just a reminder slide. So total credits sold to date are 158.28 credits. Total revenue from sales is just over 3 million. And again, as we distributed 80%, so that means of the 80% to landowners has been just almost $2.4 million that has gone into the hands of landowners to date, which is a pretty exciting story. And that has been since just the end of 2016. So it's a really exciting thing to talk about this as we have tried to share the value proposition of becoming a landowner host within this program. And again, with the 12% going into the South Dakota Community Foundation in the long-term management, which again is for the long-term monitoring of these sites, there currently sits $236,000. And in the catastrophic fund, there's $158,000. 8% of the program administration goes into, just to South Dakota Farm Bureau for our time and work and basically our expenses for sponsoring the program. In the next slide, I'm just sharing with you the interest that has grown in the South Dakota Community Foundation over time. So you just can see in the blue that it really does pay to have those dollars invested over time. So that will continue to grow. And we have partnered with the Minnehaha Conservation District. They will be responsible for the long-term monitoring and maintenance of the bank sites into the future. Looking forward, we currently have 6 potential new host sites currently being evaluated for producing credits. And I'm not kidding when I say literally hundreds of sites have been analyzed. And for one reason or not, we're not able to move forward as potential host sites. We have followed hundreds of leads. And we, again, just, I feel like we just keep following up on things. And for one reason or another, the site just has not worked out. But we do currently have 6 sites in progress. So challenges, we're always looking for additional host sites. Today, we have way more demand than we have credit inventory. We have a website that I'll share at the very end of this presentation. We do show on there a map where you can purchase credits, but we sell out of credits immediately once they become available. We very, very rarely have more than a credit or 2 or less than 5 credits available at any given time. As soon as they're released, they are usually sold. We hear from people weekly that want to purchase credits, but we just continually struggle to find landowner hosts. I didn't mention earlier, but a landowner host is required to sign a perpetual easement on their property. So sometimes that can be a deterrent. South Dakota Farm Bureau is the holder of that easement. So we are the person or the entity that signs that easement. But again, the challenge is that there is an incredible demand for purchasing credits. If you go to the next slide. So there still is a lot of misconception, misinformation, and unawareness about the program. We do try to get the word out there, but we just still need partners to share the story of this incredible program. And I think, as I mentioned before, easements can be a little bit of a deterrent. And I think just recently we've encountered some surprises again that always take me aback a little bit of just some overall lack of support for the program. We've encountered some areas of the state that we've had a little bit of pushback in some zoning concerns and just some questions about the validity of the program. And, as you can see, this has been a very successful program. So I think my plea to the people listening in is just in the way that anybody can help get the word out about this and help us share the positive messages of this and share information. We would really welcome that partnership. Again, just want to emphasize that we are always looking for more landowner hosts, but specifically, we know there is a strong credit demand in the watersheds in the Upper Big Sioux, in the Upper James, and in the Vermilion. We have had a host site in the Vermilion, but we've exhausted all the credits in that watershed, and so we really have a strong need and strong credit demand in those watersheds. So those are priority areas for our program. And next slide. Again, the opportunities are that this is an economic incentive for landowners, for those who are willing to be a host site, and both the same as the challenge is both also an opportunity because the demand outpaces the inventory. So those individuals who have been willing to be a host site, sometimes they're a little worried about going into this process. But the credit sales are always very, very strong, and the market has established itself to be beneficial, and certainly those individuals who have invested in this have certainly recouped their investment. Next slide. So quickly, what makes a good mitigation bank host site? The ideal site contains easily restorable wetlands. We basically have to work with sites that are designated as PC on a certified wetland determination. CRP contracts, often with restored wetlands, are good sites. Landowners who may have applied for wetland easement programs but have not received funding could be good candidates. And just as a heads up, Farm Bureau is going to be sending out a mailing very soon to CRP contract holders, just as an awareness campaign. And if anybody on this call knows of landowners who may have a potential site, we just please ask that you would refer them to us. And just to wrap up, we have a website, sdagwetlandexchange.com, and we would welcome that anybody could go there and find out more information. And I would welcome any questions, or again, any technical questions. Deke can certainly field those better than I can. So thank you so much. I realize I probably did go a little long here, but thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to this group today.
Thank you, Crystal, for your patience with us meeting this morning. So that's very excellent information, and I'm excited to see the success that you've been sharing with us. So terrific. Does anyone have any questions for Crystal? You may certainly type them in the chat too, if that would be more convenient.
And Crystal, just from me, I really do appreciate the relationship that NRCS has with Farm Bureau, and I'm looking forward to finding ways to continue this as we move forward. So thank you for all your hard work, and definitely appreciate what Farm Bureau is doing for South Dakota.
Yes, thank you as well, Tony. We appreciate the relationship also.
Looks like there was one person who had their hand raised. Would like to address. What is the name yourself?
Hi, this is Paul Lepisto with the Isaac Walton League. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Quick question or clarifying question. You said long-term easements. The umbrella agreement specified perpetual easements, didn't it?
It is perpetual easements. That may have just been a misstatement on my part. So yes, they are perpetual.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that question. Seeing no other activity in the chat or hands raised, we'll move forward to the next presentation. So thank you, Crystal, for your help. The next update is a triple update with Charlene Miller, who is the Fish and Wildlife Program Manager in Sissitamawak and Oyate. And I did just get a message that she is unable to attend today. Had a conflict come up, but Nate Green will be stepping forward to share some information on her behalf. So Nate, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pull up your information that Charlene shared, if we may enjoy what she got to share with us.
Hi, everybody. Nate Grebe, State Tribal Liaison for South Dakota. And I sent my presentation to Ryan so that we didn't have as much trouble with sharing. stuff. But unfortunately, Charlene, with her schedule and it being council week up there, was unable to attend our meeting. So she sent me some information, and I've got a little bit of an overview here. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to read to you guys a little bit. So don't blame me. I'm just doing the best I can with the information I got. But so Charlene is the Fish and Wildlife Program Manager up in Sisseton, Wapatinoyate. And one of the things that her group and the tribe has really worked hard on is their Ag Resource Management Plan, their ARMP. And in that plan, they have 4 major goals. And those are food sovereignty, sustainable management of natural resources, conservation of their natural resources, and sustainable management of their buffalo herd. And so I have a little presentation here on what they've done with some of their buffalo. I don't know, Ryan, are you getting it up, or you want me to try?
If you want to go ahead and give it a try, that'd be best. If not, I can give it up.
All right. I'll give her a whirl. You tell me if you see it, I guess.
We can see it. Oh, no.
All right.
Yep.
But so
Thank you.
this is some information that Charlene sent me on their buffalo farm, the Sisseton Wapatinoyate buffalo farm. And all right, I'm going to read this paragraph that she sent me. So, implemented management practices. NRCS programs, namely EQIP, facilitate implementation of prescribed grazing, water development, fencing, and seeding of native grasses and forbs on cropland. Over time, a robust grazing plan was developed in the main farm at Enemy Swim, which now utilizes 11 grazing paddocks over a total of 1,700 acres. In addition, the tribal buffalo program added the Stenicky farm, which went from 3 paddocks to 7. On their prescribed grazing, they typically rotate to a new paddock every 7 to 14 days. They divided out, they went from 4 units to 11 pastures, 3 pastures to 7. They did some well, pipeline, 6 different tanks. They hooked to a rural water system and 4 dugouts. And then they planted some crop ground back to native grasses also for additional grazing for their buffalo. And some of the things that they have seen on their outcomes is experiencing regeneration of native plants in areas that were not previously vegetated. Diversified grass production that is providing more nutritional forage, healthy livestock, and an increased wildlife presence, including courtship grounds leks for sharp-tailed grouse. SWO Buffalo Farms has become an integral part of activities on the reservation and the focal point of many cultural, spiritual, and educational programs, as well as healthy lifestyle. So this was one way that Sisseton and Wahpeton was able to work with NRCS to improve one of their main Ag Resource Management Plan goals. And they're very active up there. We do a lot of things up there with them. And it's a good partnership, and it just shows the way that we could partner with others also. Any questions for me?
Please express to Charlene that thank you for the update of what's happening in their area. It's really exciting to see the results and increased habitat and better grazing and all that. So
yeah, she wrote it so good I even sounded smart.
Well, Nate, when you're visiting with Charlene after this, definitely share congratulations that she's a board member with the Intertribal Ag Council. I think that's excellent to see more representation with that group from South Dakota. So very much appreciated that she put through her name in the hat that she was selected.
Will do.
Okay. Well, moving on to the next on the agenda. So we will have a agency update from our state conservation. There.
Hey,
All
all right.
right.
All right. So I get the privilege to go over and talk about some of our accomplishments and our fiscal year in review. So we have had a tremendous year on multiple fronts, starting with how many staff we've brought on this year to meet the demand for this Inflation Reduction Act funding that has been sent to NRCS. But bringing on so many new staff have definitely had its challenges, but we've had a very successful year. I think my computer will forward. So with this overview, we're going to go over just a handful of items, including trainings, meetings, awards, a couple of areas that NRCS was actually spotlighted this year in South Dakota, our Farm Bill programs, some more specific projects that we were able to address with these increase in dollars. We're going to highlight some of our partnerships, some of our innovations that we've been working on across the state, and we want to also touch on our increased focus on outreach. So starting with just meetings, we have brought in, I think we're up to 350 staff across the state, which is a significant increase. When I first, well, not quite 350, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself there. We're closer to 325. If we include our student interns, we're a little closer to 350. When I came on 3 years ago, our staff was sitting about 380 or 280. That's my numbers up. 280. And we've had to increase due to the significant increase in IRA funding. And I will get to the specific numbers as we go throughout this presentation. But we've been making sure that our new staff are actually getting to know each other. That's one of the biggest challenges with having a large state like South Dakota and having so many staff spread across the state is they don't know each other. And getting to know each other and networking, sharing information is critical to the success of how we're improving conservation across the state. Our ecological sciences team met. We had area field days. We had area meetings. And very similar to meetings like our State Technical Advisory Committee, we also meet with a Tribal Conservation Advisory Council. Again, very similar setup to what this meeting is. We visit with our tribal representatives to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our tribes and our native producers across the state. Again, I touched on pathway students. We hosted about 15 pathway students this last year in many different disciplines, from engineering, public affairs, to our field office staff with soil conservationists, rangeland conservationists, and other planners. This is also critical for the success of our agency, as we're finding a lot of success in bringing students in, and we're able to bring them in after graduation, and we're retaining our students. We did have to put a significant investment into training. When you bring on close to, I think, over the last 5 years, we brought on over 150 new individuals into NRCS South Dakota. So we're having to invest in training. This is to ensure that not only our staff, but our partners have the necessary skills to work with our producers across the state, making sure that we're doing that good customer service and that they're knowledgeable when they're talking to the producers. So again, a few examples of the trainings, and this is a very small example of the trainings. I think we had closer to 13 large trainings and several small trainings at the area and field office level. Here a little bit more. So as we are working through and bringing on these new staff and going through training, we're also trying to work through morale and through acknowledgement. We're working on developing more and more awards across the state. Here's an example of some of the awards that I'm gonna point at Jim here, that Jim and his team, our state engineers team, has been focusing on making sure that we're acknowledging our staff for doing an outstanding job across the state. We actually saw a couple of national awards come into South Dakota also, and I'm looking forward to sharing those at our next annual meeting, since they're technically in this current fiscal year, this 25, and this is more of a focus on 24. South Dakota is getting acknowledged. We're doing some outstanding work that is not just happening in South Dakota, but is getting acknowledged nationally. And I have to give a big kudos to our leadership team and all of our staff across the state for really being innovative and trying new things and making sure that we're really rising to this calling of getting these additional dollars out the door, but making sure that we're taking care of our staff at the same time. We have one of the lowest attrition rates in the region, if not the nation. The folks that we bring on board after we have them here for a year, they typically stay. And I can't speak for every other state, but the attrition rate shows a lot that we're keeping a lot of the folks that we're bringing here. And I really appreciate the hard work of our team in making that happen. Another exciting opportunity that South Dakota is taking advantage of is really recognizing our Earth Team volunteers. And what an Earth Team volunteer is somebody who is not a paid NRCS employee that is volunteering to go and work on spreading the message of conservation, working with our producers across the state, and doing it on their own time. And this is not just individuals doing this, but this is some of our close partners like the Soil Health Coalition. This top picture here is a picture of our Soil Health Coalition that was receiving our National Earth Team Volunteer Award. So this is an award that was actually presented by the chief of NRCS, Chief Terry Cosby, for the number of hours and the dedication that our South Dakota Soil Health Coalition has put in, just again, teaching and providing education and mentoring to so many producers across the state. Well-deserved award nationally. We also had a couple of other individuals that got nominated and recognized nationally with awards for volunteering. Tracy Rosenberg, and also the Walks Family Pasture Walking Tour that they do on a regular basis. So again, we're getting this national recognition. Something else that I was really, really proud of, and I get to share with my colleagues often as I possibly can. Our partnership with the South Dakota Grassland Coalition actually received the Emmy this year. We have a public service announcement out there that after my presentation, I'll go ahead and pull that up and share. Last year we got nominated for a regional Emmy, and this year we got nominated again, actually won for that regional Emmy for best public service announcement. They did a really excellent job, and just having the support of Joe Dickey, our cinematographer or videographer. We have been producing some outstanding content beyond just this winning public service announcement. There's several that are part of the Where Good Things Grow campaign and website. But even if you have a chance to go and check out South Dakota NRCS's YouTube page, we have, I think, close to 600 plus videos on there, all wonderfully done. And we've been featuring several of our producers from across the state in the good work that they're doing on our grasslands. So continuing on with NRCS being spotlit, we did get a feature in actually I'll say it's Dakota Farmer Magazine talking article about rethinking grazing practices. We got the front page of Dakota Farmer for a feature on beginning farmer conservation journey. We have Pam Geppert, who has been expertly helping us spread the message of conservation across the state through her Dakota Farm Talk program, as well as other articles in Conservation Digest. I can't say enough to everybody. Please take the opportunity to check out our YouTube channel, take a look or listen in on Dakota Farm Talk. I think we're featured once or twice a month. Bi-weekly. And again, we have our agency experts that are getting on there and just giving kind of short talks on what we're doing across the state.
I might interject here just for a moment. Since we have Dakota Farm Talk on the screen, I want to spotlight the work of Pam Pepper this year. She was the award recipient for our 2024 South Dakota Cooperative Conservation Award. And she earned that award for her decades of service, highlighting the conservation work of farmers and ranchers, and also while she was interviewing subject matter experts. So she's got a wonderful talent for listening and interpreting science-based information and helping put that into language that is relatable for farmers and ranchers and helping encourage additional conservation. So I want to take a moment to recognize Pam for that award. Thank you.
So getting into changes, there it is. Getting into more of the numbers, Farm Bill obligations. So our main programs that NRCS works within, and our personal programs would be our Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP, our Environmental Qualities Incentives Program, EQIP, our Agricultural Conservation Easements Program. Oh, that's fun. Sorts of colors there. All right. ASEP, and then our Regional Conservation Partnership Program, RCP. These are our main programs. There's other programs that we do assist with. Our other big program in South Dakota that we do assist with. It's not our program, it's our service agencies program, but we do provide technical assistance, is the Conservation Reserve Program, or our CRP. So EQIP and CSP are really big programs here in South Dakota. And with the Inflation Reduction Act, we have received a significant increase in funding, which has been a challenge, but it's been a really good challenge. And we've definitely excelled and done wonderfully in the state with that program. Just to throw some numbers at you. So the numbers on the screen here, $41 million for CSP and $44 million for EQIP. So those are the dollars that we ended up receiving, or that we ended up obligating by the end of fiscal year 24. So the item with those two numbers, that was not our initial allocation. Our initial allocation for EQIP for last year was closer to $36 million. So South Dakota actually absorbed an additional $8 million of EQIP. For CSP, our original allocation was $37 million. So we ended up picking up an additional $3 or $4 million. And what that means is there's other states that don't have the same ability that South Dakota has to make sure that we're getting this money out the door. They may not have as many applications as South Dakota has. So we end up absorbing funding from other states to spread our conservation dollar a little bit further here. So starting back, my numbers go back to 22. That's when I got here. So I have the numbers from then. Anything before that, I don't unfortunately have the numbers for. But starting in 22, our overall allocation for CSP was $15 million. So $15 million is where we started just a couple of years ago. We've grown from $15 million to $41 million in just a couple of years. That's a significant increase in funding. For EQIP, in 22, we started off with $16.4 million in South Dakota. We've grown from 16.4 in fiscal year 22 to $44 million this last year. That's a significant increase in funding. As far as how many people that we've worked with, so starting in 21, we ended up having 875 applications, and we were able to fund about 350 million. So it had quite a bit of workload left there. And that was pre-IRA, it was pre-Inflation Reduction Act. In 22, we had 935 applications for EQIP, and we were able to fund 380 of them. So we did get a little increase in funding. Moving into 23, we were able to fund 386. So again, not a huge increase. Still, we didn't see a big increase last year in IRA. There was an increase, but it wasn't significant. We ended up with about a 25% increase in funding what we did see is our leftover pot of EQIP applications really got low because we started dipping into prior year applications that weren't funded. We only had about 200 left by the time we were done funding. So we had a little bit of a panic last year. It's like, oh shoot, we're going to end up with all the extra money and we're not going to have enough applications to actually utilize it. We don't want to be a state that's sending our money to other states. So we really ramped up our outreach. Our field offices did an amazing job. Our partners really stepped up to help get the word out that NRCS has money. We have the ability to get out and actually utilize this money across the landscape. And we grew from having 200 applications in EQIP left over to having 1,100 applications in 1 year. I mean, we really grew. We gained 800 applications in 1 year, more than we ever have. And we were able to fund about 600 of them. So that was a significant increase. Again, we went from 380 applications to 600 in 1 year. And we were able to do that with all these new staff that NRCS brought on and the help of partners. And this is just EQIP I'm talking about. If we slide into CSP, again, a program that South Dakota is really invested in. In 21, we had 1,200 applications for CSP, and we were able to fund about 140 of them. A lot of applications, not funding very many of them. And if we fast forward to 24, we were able to fund about 300 of them. So we still have a long ways to go for CSP. We have a backlog of applications that we're working on. And what this shows is, while I know that there could be some frustration out there with some of our producers that they're not getting their applications funded, we're gonna work on getting it. We finished up year number 2 with this IRA, and this was a 50% increase this year. We're expected to see growth. My initial allocation for CSP this year is starting off at $42 million, which is more than we obligated this last year, and I'm expected to see that number go up. For EQIP, we're starting out at $47 million as we're starting out with EQIP this year. We have more funding than we've ever seen. This is our biggest year for initial funding. And as we move into next year, as we move into fiscal year 26, we're going to see one more increase. This is exciting. This is exciting that we have the opportunity to work with so many producers, and we have the opportunity to get so much further with conservation than we've ever had. So please, partners, please continue to let folks know that there is funding available. There's going to continue to be funding available. If they haven't gotten funded by NRCS in the past, this is the best time to continue to put your applications in. We're going to work on continuing to get to our producers. Our field staff is ready to get out there and get this work done. And we're excited about it. We're excited about having the opportunity to work with them. There are still some unknowns, as was mentioned by our delegation. We are still waiting on a farm bill and what the farm bill is going to look like. I don't have the answers for that. I think we're all waiting to see what that looks like and what the final draft's going, or what the final approved draft's going to be. But I know we're all ready and we're willing and we're ready to get out there and get this thing implemented. So just a couple of quick facts for South Dakota. So South Dakota NRCS is the #1 state in the nation for RCPT projects approved. We have more applications than I think most states, and we ended up at the top of the list for number of approved. We have a really dedicated team, and we have a lot of, again, great partners that are stepping up to get the word out about these opportunities. And we've been entering into these conversations, and it's awesome to see. Again, this is just another funding source for South Dakota to try to get more conservation on the ground across the state. For our beginning farmers and ranchers. So we do have an allocation by statute that we're supposed to set aside, and roughly 5% supposed to go to our beginning farmers and ranchers. We've dedicated about $18.8 million to beginning farmers and ranchers. For CSP, so just to give you an idea of how much CSP South Dakota is actually able to enroll, we enrolled more CSP acres than the entire state of Rhode Island. Not just Rhode Island CSP, I'm talking about the entire state of Rhode Island. We have more acres of CSP than that entire state. We have increased over the last couple of years. We have increased the number of contracts with women and women-owned entities from 7 to 12%. So we've seen almost a 50% or 100% increase, close to 100% increase in the number of women that we're working with. We also have roughly 400 new to NRCS participants. So these are new customers, folks that we have never worked with before within a contract. So we're working on trying to bring these new folks, and this has been a priority of the agency, is to try to reach out to new customers, and we've been doing successfully here. And then from 2022 to 2024, we have doubled, and I've mentioned that in our last slide. We've seen a significant increase in our obligations in our workload. So just a couple of projects that we've been working on and that we are working on improving across the state. South Dakota soil health study. We're also working on a couple new projects. So we have something called an interim practice standard. We can actually work on creating new technology within the state. We have a couple of these projects that are happening right now across the state. We have one that's happening. It's not featured here, but we're working with Standing Rock Reservation right now on working on a in-ground or it's a greenhouse with a geothermal heating system, try to keep the air temperature more stable and a little bit warmer in the structure. And we're trying to find ways that we can have these season extending practices that will actually stand up to South Dakota's harsher conditions. We recognize that sometimes our seasonal high tunnels, they kind of get shredded quickly between hail and wind. And we're trying to find new ways and new innovative ways to make these practices viable for the state. This is another one of these items I just want to focus on within this particular group of the State Technical Advisory Committee. If there's opportunities for us to continue to improve our technology and try some new practices, this is a great venue for partners to come forward and say, hey, NRCS, have you guys thought about this? And give us an opportunity to dig in a little bit and make sure that we are building practices that meet the needs of our producers across the state. Another example of some of our projects across the state, stream crossings, stream banks, grade stabilization. Jim, do you want to add anything to this? Because I got you here.
I'll just say they're really, really interesting projects that face some unique situations in the field. They have to be kind of tailored to the site, so they're fun.
And we're very fortunate to have such an awesome engineering team across the state, and so many even non-engineers that are willing to step up to learn some of the basic engineering practices to make sure that we're, again, addressing the needs of our producers across the state. Want to touch on this one, Jim?
Sure, I can touch on this one. Just shout out about our here in South Dakota, a little bit unique in the country, I think, in this respect for NRCS. We have a nutrient management team based out of our Mitchell office with supporting engineering staff with a team based out of our Canton and APAC offices. It's just a little bit of an example of the work they do, both their own engineering and design and nutrient management portfolio, but also working with private engineering consultants through our technical service provider program, tweak some of the structural work to see in these pictures. Upper right is what's considered a bedded pack beef barn, put in a floor and separate bays and lots sized for a certain number of heads throughout the length of this barn, and then roof and structure practice with the top of that. And down on the bottom middle there is one of the composting.
And South Dakota is a little unique that we have a specialized team like our nutrient management team, able to kind of take a strike force approach on working with our producers that need this type of assistance. So very fortunate that South Dakota has this specialized team to go and jump in and get through these complex practices very quickly. So yeah,
we'll be adding another plug later.
Perfect. So as I mentioned earlier, we had a couple of new innovations. And this is something I'm very proud of our opportunities to practice innovation and to bring in new opportunities, improve existing software and tools that we have, and then work on building new ones. This is an example of one of the tools that was created for South Dakota over this last year, cultural resources tool. This simplifies how we get our data input into for cultural resources, and also gets this information out to our archaeologists much quicker than it previously did. It kind of streamlines it. It creates a one-stop shop for resources. And I think the number that I just heard recently, and Ryan, you're going to have to correct me if I misspeak here, but we are, with just the creation of a tool like this, we're saving between 15 and 20 minutes per request. And that may not seem like a lot of time, but when we have 1,300 requests in a year, that time adds up really, really quickly. And this tool, again, saving 15 and 20 minutes a piece for each request at 1,000 to 1,300, we're talking about 11 weeks of time saved with a tool like this. That's significant. That is significant with something like this. And I'm so excited that we have folks across the state that are willing to step up and work on creating tools like this. Another improvement that we've seen in the state that's significant is with our SharePoint. While our partners may not be able to see something like this, organizing our data, and I loved what I heard from the team and saying that the idea behind fixing our SharePoint, organizing our SharePoint, was everything should be able to be found within 3 clicks. If we're talking about trying to expedite something and having that in mind, that any new staff member can find what they're looking for potentially within 3 clicks, that's outstanding, especially when we're bringing on close to 150 new people in just a couple of years. We need that information obtainable quickly. And this team has managed to put something like that together. And while there's always improvements that continue to be made, this is awesome. This is awesome that we have innovative and forward-thinking people on our team that are able to make this happen. And this again is not something that's necessarily done at a national level. This is a South Dakota specific project. And our teams have started to get recognized nationally for this type of work. And I don't know how many times we've been pulled into meetings with other states to share this information that's being innovated in South Dakota. But it's something that's so cool that it starts here and that we're building so many innovative new tools. And I'm proud that we have this team here in South Dakota. So I need to give a big shout out to Brian. You've been an instigator of a lot of this. So I really do appreciate all the hard work that you and your teams have been putting into making these new innovations. Yeah, thank you. So partnership projects. This is another cool thing that we're able to do here in South Dakota. We have several projects, and we're going to spotlight a small handful of them. One is, again, just touching on our YouTube channel. I mentioned that before, and look, I was right. We have over 600 videos on our YouTube channel. A lot of really good content. Really encourage everybody, if you haven't had a chance to go check out our YouTube channel, go check it out. We got some amazing content there. We have some big partnerships with our South Dakota Grassland Initiative. We have our Growing Resilience partnership. We have our partnership with, again, the Grasslands Initiative and the Grasslands Coalition for where good things grow. If you haven't had a chance to check out that website, it's just go to www.wheregoodthingsgrow.org. Great information, good handful of videos on there. Also, we have the Dakota Conservation Network. This is a little bit newer in that there is a website where we're trying to establish a bulletin board for the state for conservation opportunities. So producers can actually go on there and enter their information, and it's going to lead them to information on what partners may have funding opportunities or funding opportunities, technical assistance, just opportunities for conservation within their area. And we're doing this. So our partners, and so NRCS, so my new district conservationists across the state, if a partner comes in and we may not have funding available for them, there's an easy reference that they can go and check out to see if there's maybe some other partners that have opportunities. This is a partner-driven website. So if you have opportunities that you would like to have posted on that website, you're going to need to go on the website as a partner and enter your information and keep it updated. There is an administrator of it, but it's really going to be driven by the individual partnership. I know NRCS, we're responsible for updating our own part of it, but that's what's going to make this conservation network successful. is making sure that all of you that have funding opportunities and have opportunities go on there and update your information so that it's kept updated. Good opportunity. This has been really cool. The grassland mural. I got my first opportunity to see this mural at Pheasant Fest last year in Sioux Falls. What an outstanding piece of work. It just artistically, it's great to look at. It's a huge draw wherever we've managed to haul this thing off. And it's not one box. I mean, we're talking about 6 boxes, big boxes. It takes some time to get this thing set up, but it's worth it. And so many people like to go up and just look at this piece of art. And it's such a good example of the transition stages from what we want our grasslands to look like to what's several areas of our grasslands across the states currently look like. So this is just a good educational piece, and all of our partners down across the bottom that have really helped to put this piece of art together, from Working Lands from Wildlife, Quail Forever, our Grasslands Coalition, Pheasants Forever, the Soil Health Coalition, and our conservation districts. Just a huge thank you to all the partners that helped put this piece together. It is a very unique piece that outlines our Dakota grasslands. And it's been so cool to be able to stand in front of this and give presentations. So if you haven't had a chance to see this mural, I'm sure it's going to be coming to an event near you soon. So take the opportunity to take a look at it. There's a lot of work that went into it, and it's a good educational piece. So this concludes my part of the presentation. Before I move on and show you guys our Emmy Award-winning video, does anybody have any questions or comments or items they'd like to bring up before we move further down the agenda? If you've been thinking about something and you don't want to raise your hand, feel free to drop something in the chat. We'll make sure that we get it addressed. I'm going to stop sharing this window, but I'm going to bring up a different window. And I promise it's a minute long, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time with the video here. But not share this. So I do know how to use this stuff.
Can you feel breathe?
I'm gonna go ahead and stop this for the moment. My internet connection is so poor that what I'm gonna do is we'll save this for a little bit later in the agenda. I do want to share this because it is really good and it's worth sharing. And what I'll do is later in the agenda, we will pull this up. I'm going to have Ryan pull it up and share it from his machine since he's actually connected in, and he'll have better luck with that later. So, Colette, I'm going to hand this back to you.
Well, thank you. So there's lots of highlights there from the year. So it's really fun to hear the work of the Happy Class the state. So you're speaking about what's been done, and we're looking forward to what we're going to do. There's in the agenda, there is a link to the a post on the Federal Register. So the USDA NRCS is seeking public input on the climate benefits of conservation practice standards. So I just wanted to draw that attention to that little link, and that it is posted in the Federal Register because comments are due by December 23rd. And what they're looking for was any sort of suggestions for innovation or adaptation that might enhance those practice standards. They're a great standard, things are going well, but you know what? Sometimes we have innovation that comes with improvements. And then, going into conservation practice standards, I'm going to ask Jessica Mahalski to speak forward, and she was our state resource conservationist. So she has some lessons that she'll share with us from an ecological sciences perspective.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Colette. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen right now. I have mentioned in previous meetings that we do technical updates. We try to do those just twice a year in October and April, where we actually add additional updated guidance to our field office technical guide, whether that's related to ecological sciences, engineering, soils, any of the technical resources. And you know, Jim can get into the engineering as he gets into his report. But this year we had some software issues, and so our field office tech guide updates didn't happen as quickly as we would have liked, but they are in the process of getting updated now. What I wanted to show you, and I'll put this in the chat, is of course the resource that we have for our partners, our producers, all of you, is our field office technical guide. That's really where you can find everything that's publicly available related to our technical work. But what I wanted to show you is that when there are updates to the field office technical guide, those notices are actually published right here in section 1. So if you go to field office tech guide, choose South Dakota, go to section 1 to notices, and we put them in there by fiscal year. So you'll see that we have a new notice that just came out recently, and that was the notice related to the ecological sciences updates. And we do have several updates. We have some updates to our technical notes related to fencing. We did work to put together a technical note strictly on bison fencing. We've had a lot of interest in that practice and the addition or what's required for bison. We also have a new technical note on virtual fencing. That is something now that's been included in our payment schedule for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. And so we do have a technical note on virtual fencing. We updated some tree selection and design in our Tech Note 46. We did some more, I'm sorry, that Tech Note 46 is for wildlife planting specifically. We did update our Tech Note 42 windbreak design. We have a brand new Tech Note related to urban and small scale agriculture, and that's Tech Note 1. I'll show you where to find these. We did update our tree and shrub list. So that's in section 2. And then section 4 is where all of our practice standards and specifications information is uploaded. We have a few small updates to our windbreak shelter belt establishment, riparian forest buffer. One thing that I wanted to point out is that South Dakota NRCS did choose to adopt feed management this year. That's code 592. That is a practice that's been available nationally, but South Dakota has not adopted that until this year. So if you want to read about that particular practice standard, please do so. We updated a little bit on tree shrub establishment, and then a few of our tools were updated as well. So again, you can find any of this information. There is a document search. So if you're specifically interested, for example, in anything related to fence, you can type in the word fence. You can see our statement of work, our conservation practice standard. That's what CPS stands for. Tech notes will show up. So we've got our range Tech Note 7, which is all about fence in South Dakota. You can see the information on virtual fencing. All of that information is located just by searching. So I just want to remind you, the Field Office Technical Guide is the resource that we utilize to provide everything to the public. The other thing that has changed within the last couple of years is that there was a revamp done here a couple of years ago of our NRCS website, and that was nationally kind of handed down to the states. And so there were some changes related to where we're putting information on the conservation stewardship program. So that is actually under section 3 on the Field Office Tech Guide now. We used to be able to put that directly on our website, but that's changed. And so all of our enhancement and bundle information is located there. One other thing that I was asked to cover is information on updated fact sheets. And again, I'll put both of these links in the chat. So the link for our field office tech guide will be in the chat. And then I also have pulled up our South Dakota NRCS fact sheets. So if you're looking for information on different items, a few of the things I wanted to point out is that our cover crop table fact sheet was updated in this summer in June, I believe it was. Yep, June of this summer. So the information related to all the different cover crops and their properties was updated. We do have now we have a fact sheet on virtual fencing. So that's a new fact sheet that we have up there. Just a lot of different resources for you guys to take a look at. That's what I wanted to cover. Are there any questions for me at this point in time? Doesn't look like in the chat. Okay. If not, I wanted to keep that kind of short and quick, but I do want to hand it over to Brandon Walter. Brandon is our state biologist, and also Brandon is our South Dakota NRCS technical lead for the CRP program and the ECP program. Those are both FSA programs, but Brandon is our technical lead for those. But Brandon is going to touch on the potential listing of the monarch butterfly and kind of what that means for our partners and producers. So I'll turn it over to Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Yeah, I just was gonna ask to provide a little overview, kind of a high level of what the process is on this potential listing of the butterfly. I'm gonna turn my camera off just to save some bandwidth, but I'll just kind of go through, kind of some of what we're looking at with this potential listing. But the Fish and Wildlife Service, they did announce that there is a proposal to list the monarch, both the western and eastern population, as a threatened species with species-specific protections and flexibilities to encourage conservation under Section 4D of the Endangered Species Act. They're also proposing to designate critical habitat. We don't have any here, but the ones they're proposing is some overwintering grounds out in California. Under the Endangered Species Act, the Fish and Wildlife Service, they do have flexibilities to tailor the protections for threatened species to prevent the further decline of the species and to facilitate recovery. And that's kind of where NRCS can come in as well before there is the potential, if they actually do list it, to kind of be proactive with some of our conservation efforts and how we go about putting conservation on the landscape. Their proposed 4D rule incentivizes proactive conservation efforts and allows actions to have beneficial or minimal impacts to monarchs. The NRCS right now, we're currently working to explore potential national solutions at the national level to help alleviate the regulatory workload that will be associated with a proposed listing. To this end, right now, NRCS is in discussions, with Fish and Wildlife Service to discuss options. At this time, though, there is no final agreement formally signed off by both agencies yet. So that's still in the process. Just to kind of give you an idea, the proposal for to list the monarch and the designated critical habitat did appear in the Federal Register on December 12th of 2024. Colette had mentioned earlier about being open for public comment for conservation practice standards on the register. This too is open for any public comment. So if anybody has any ideas or anything whatsoever, there will be a 90-day comment period for the butterfly. So that will go through March of 2025. So they'll be gathering any input and encourage anybody to provide any submissions on any new information. They'll review these comments and will ultimately issue a final rule. If listed, protections would only go into place after the final rule is published. So if Fish and Wildlife Service does pursue listing, listing would not occur until approximately January of 2026. and at that point it'll become a listed species. So we have some time to provide, like I said, to provide some input, but that's just kind of an overview of the process on what Fish and Wildlife's looking for on a proposal to list the species. So Jess, I can turn it back over to you if there's any questions, or maybe there's somebody from Fish and Wildlife on that would like to provide any other input. That would be great as well.
I thought I originally saw a hand up, but maybe not.
I did see a hand. It looked like maybe Dana had a comment.
It was accidental, sorry.
Nope, no problem. Any questions or comments from anyone? All right, if not, that concludes our ecological sciences update. Please reach out to Brandon or I if you have any questions after this meeting. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thanks, Jessica. So we're going to back up just a moment and ask Ryan to go ahead and play the Emmy Award winning PSA.
Sure, sound. There it is.
And then we'll move on with the agenda.
Yep.
Do you hear its heartbeat? Can you feel it breathe? Are you mindful of its bounty? Clean water, clean air, diverse plants, rich and abundant life. Healthy grasslands are the place where good things grow. But those grasslands are being threatened by conversion to cropland, woody encroachment, and improper management. Working together, we can protect this treasure, this shared and precious gift, for generations to come. Our Dakota grasslands, where good things grow. Visit wheregoodthingsgrow.org to learn more.
Thank you, Ryan. Right, what a powerful video. Like I said, I've been sharing that video whenever I get a chance to share it. Great work on behalf of the partnership. Really, really am proud of what Where Good Things Grow have done. It's kind of fun to be able to drive down I-90 every once in a while. You see one of the billboards on the side of the road too. It's really good job on the public information. So just again, a lot of appreciation to partnership.
Thank you for making that one. Okay, on the agenda, we had an update for wetland determinations, and I think we covered the comments earlier by Crystal. And so we'll move on to the engineering update with Julie.
All right, thanks, Colette. Let's have a very brief update here real quick. I want to talk a little bit about another program that we have going on here in South Dakota, and that's our Emergency Watershed Protection Program. You'll remember we had a pretty significant event back in late June or July of 2024 with all the flooding on the Big Sioux and the James Rivers. And that activated a federal disaster declaration and allowed us to come in and help out with anywhere we could based on requests from sponsors to address any emergency repair or protection needs. So we did have a couple of sponsor requests come in. I just want to let everybody know where we are with those particular projects. We have a project that is currently funded, has been approved for funding with Game Fish and Parks, actually, on some work to repair some auxiliary spillway erosion on Dimmock Lake, down south and east a little ways from Mitchell, just down around the Dimmock area there. That project is a total of about $398,000. A portion of that funding goes towards technical assistance. We'll be working on a cooperative agreement with Game Fish and Parks. Get a design completed through their dams and engineering section within Game Fish and Parks. So actually working with Kip Rounds and James Gilbertson within Game Fish and Parks on that project. Getting rolling on a local contribution working agreement between NRCS and Game Fish and Parks to get that project done. And then the other one is one that we have sitting in the queue right now for some work on a bridge over the Million River in Clay County. Sponsor on that one is Clay County Highway Department. That project has come in with an estimate of right around $798,000. I anticipate it's going to be funded very soon. We're working on an agreement with the county and some technical assistance help to work with their consulting engineering firm out here. Complete some work on in conjunction with FEMA. FEMA's doing some work on the bridge and the abutments itself within the right of way. And NRCS through our EWP, we're working on some protection on the stream banks on either side of the bridge. That's another project that we've got going right now. So my program manager is John Schmidt out of the Fairfield Support Office. I got to apply him big time right now for the support he provided on this work. More to come on that. Hopefully we'll get those projects, get some construction going here this next construction season. And then real quick, I said I'd give a little bit of a plug on the English management team. This wasn't on the agenda, but I'm going to throw it in there. We have the English management team is a statewide assistance team. We go through a nomination process that comes in from field offices. And these nominations are for basically applications through our EQIP and our RCPP programs. And right now on the books, it's looking like, from what I've seen come in from the team, we've got about right around 19, 20 projects for active applications covering 13 counties in eastern South Dakota. They're both EQIP and RCPP. We have a potential need with that number of applications and potential projects, a little over north of $5 million. So the demand is still there for help with small feedlots, colonies, mortality, manure composting, a lot of really neat projects, these bed pack barns, taking small lots and putting in livestock waste controls, huge demand of 5 million plus. And this year we probably will have enough funds available for maybe half of that. So always a demand for producers out there wanting to improve water quality through our engagement management team. Shout out to them. Then real quick on the tech guide side of things, engineering, right now we're a little bit behind. We don't have a huge number of practices that we're needing to get uploaded after the software glitch going on. But be watching for a tech guide notice, section 1, like Jessica demonstrated there. We have basically 5 practices that have a little bit of minor tweaks coming out. Nothing major, nothing is critical as what Jessica's posted up. I think we're looking at a geotextile spec, a little bit of a language in obstruction removal, livestock shelter structure, and the wetland creation, wetland enhancement practices. But pretty small numbers, so we're kind of waiting for that old software thing and the new platform to become available for us, and we'll be getting those posted soon. That's it from engineering. If anybody has any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. On the agenda after the engineering update, I'm going to go over to the Farm Service Agency update and Farm Bill programs. So Owen had indicated to me that with the Farm Bill not currently in effect, he asked if I would please report that there's a holding pattern as far as the DCRP activities are happening. So if he said this and thank you, if you have any questions or anything, please let the ones I know. And we can paste his contact information in the chat for you. Okay, so moving on to the NRCS conservation programs of the Farm Bill, I'm going to turn it over to Val Prince.
Good morning. I am joining you from an area outside of the state office. So I have the programs report. I'm going to go ahead and roll down the list. So for EQIP, we're working through the applications that we had received prior to October 4th. So applications received prior to October 4th and all prior year applications are being considered for fiscal 25 consideration. The payment schedule has been, a draft copy has been released. The official copy should come out very soon. We've got an internal meeting to discuss some of the payment rate updates and practice scenario updates later this week. So the planning for EQIP is well on its way for fiscal 25. We're also working to finalize ranking templates and get those released for the field offices. So rankings can occur as soon as they're released until our pre-approval dates, which are expected to be, there's one scheduled for late January And then the other pre-approval dates will follow up until the end of March for EQIP on. So with the nice weather that allowed for a fairly stress-free harvest, we also benefited from that and were able to implement a lot of activities in the fall. So field offices are busy finishing up certifications and associated with practice implementation. So that was, the nice weather was definitely a benefit for us as it was all of the producers. So CSP, we have about 100 renewal applications that we're working through to get obligated. So the obligation date is the end of the month here. So the field offices are very committed and are really busy working through those renewals. So the 100 renewals is a little less than 50% of the applications or contracts that were eligible for renewal. So our renewal rate was in that 50% range. Our fiscal year 2025 payment schedule there again is expected to be released very soon. So that will be a component of final decisions for fiscal 25 CSP applications. The application date for CSP was also October 4th. So we've had those applications in the office and we've been working through those applications. The CSP application ranking will follow the EQIP ranking. But the resource concern evaluation and program workload coincides. So ASIP, our easement program, we made some selections last Friday. So we had a batching date earlier this year for some Inflation Reduction Act funds. And we have gone through a ranking period with those applications and made selections. They're pending notification. We also have a upcoming batching date of December 20th for those easement opportunities again. And after December 20th, we'll then take all of the current applications we have, plus the new ones received prior to December 20th. We'll go through the ranking process again and make selections probably in that early February or mid-February timeframe. So we've also had our geographic rate caps approved for our easement program, and there is a map with a few notes on it that will come out with the state technical meeting minutes. And lastly, I'm going to wrap up with the Regional Conservationist Partnership Program, and we're working through the agreement development. The state received 6 funded projects. So we're working to finalize the agreements associated with those projects. So the South Dakota had the most selected agreements within the nation with 6 when we had 20 proposals. So, and that's what I got for you today, Colette.
Great, thanks, Val. So lots of stuff going on with programs in the background, and moving from financial, we're going to go back to the foundation of our agency with the soils. But before we do that, do we have any questions for Val? Seeing none, we will move into the NRCS soils update with Nathan Jones, who is the state soil scientist.
Looks like it's still good morning. Hope everybody's having a great day. We're getting snow in Pierre, so hopefully you guys are getting some moisture as well. So I'm going to share with you a project that USDA is starting. It's called the Soil Carbon Monitoring Network, something we're doing nationwide, and NRCS has a huge part in making this happen. The idea of this is they're going to track soil carbon sequestration and tie it to management practices. And I'm looking forward to this. I think we're learning more and more that carbon is pretty important, especially in the soil, where it has the potential to improve water infiltration, water availability, aggregate stability, soil health, and in the end, productivity. So this project has some really good potential. For FY25, we submitted almost 30 producer names for the teams to go out and sample. And starting in FY26, they are going to be sampling based on National Resources inventory sites, both cropland and rangeland across the state. So if you guys hear producers talking about this, send them to me if they have questions. I definitely think this thing has potential. We just wanted to make sure as many folks know about this so that there are fewer bumps in the road when we kick off this project. Any questions? All right, thanks, Colette.
Okay, great. The next item on the agenda is for partnerships and agreements update. So we have, NRCS has partnerships with many organizations, and we also have like 65, 70 agreements at any given time. But we work with a lot of people without agreement. Have one place to put together. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that for fiscal year 25, we will be having a conservation collaboration cooperative agreement announcement, a notice of funding. It needs to work its way through the system, and when it's ready, it will be posted on grants.gov. And that notice of funding will be open for 60 days. So we will make sure to publicizing that within state. But we have, I'm sure it'll take a few more weeks yet before it gets posted on grants.gov. So be watching for it maybe in late January, I hope. But if you don't happen to see the notice, check our website, and you can also check with my staff and we'll help you get the information. Again, that's on grants.gov. Okay, so moving into a round robin of our partnership updates, we do have several people that have updates. I will invite Dana Kleinsasser, who is the Deputy Director for Rural Development, to please take the platform.
Sure. Thank you, Colette, and thanks for letting me just share for a few minutes with you today. It's good to hear the updates from your side and everyone, so that's been exciting. Just a few things from rural development. Again, I'm Dana Kleinsasser, the Deputy State Director, and we have basically 3 to 4 main program areas within rural development. So if you're not familiar with them, I'll just quickly mention them and then maybe highlight a couple things under each one. Our single family housing programs, we continue to serve lower income applicants there, both with our direct program and our guaranteed program. So if anyone hears of a possible homeowner looking for assistance, they can sure reach out to us. We also have our rural business programs and cooperative development. And there we can assist businesses with all sorts of things. Our value-added producer grant program is popular. Our energy programs have been popular. And then we also have some guaranteed programs where we work with the lender on a loan. And then our revolving loan funds, we're actually the biggest in the nation for revolving loan funds in some of our business program areas. So we're proud of that. And we have a lot of access to capital there through some of our partners across the state that we've given money to. Community programs is also a great program area that we have. Community facilities and then water and sewer infrastructure programs fall under this. So we get involved with communities, fire departments, hospitals, nonprofits, tribal entities, and then rural water systems to fund a lot of good projects in rural areas. Telecommunications has been a hot topic lately. Lots of broadband, distance learning and telemedicine have been popular. So those are some exciting areas that we can assist with. We are really focused on partnerships and philanthropy. So we've added a new outreach coordinator in South Dakota with rural development. So we're excited about that. And we're really trying to bring some of those pieces together. And we thrive on this. If we can't assist or we can't help someone, we always try to find other ways to connect them and find other resources and avenues for them. So let us know, reach out, or feel free to give customers our name if you hear of folks trying to do things in the rural areas of the state. Just to update you on our staff, we have a very small staff in South Dakota. We have about 40 employees now. We did bring some new staff on last fiscal year, so you may see some new faces out there or run into some new folks from RD. And we do have a big focus on training and getting them acclimated into our program areas. I know Tony mentioned the Pathways program. We've used that program a lot for bringing on new employees, and it's been very successful for us also. So yeah, so as you can see, we have numerous programs in our portfolio. I always like to say we can build a community from the ground up because we truly can. So again, feel free to reach out to us. I will put a link in the chat just for easy access to our website. I'll also put my email address there, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And then lastly, I just want to mention the appreciation that we have for the partnership between the USDA agencies. So thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks for putting your information in the chat. Does anyone have any questions before we move to the next? Very good. All right, we have two more guests on our round robin today. Krista Erdman is with the Northern Great Plains Joint Venture, and I ask you, Krista, to please take the floor.
Thank you, Colette. Hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Krista Erdman. I'm a Science Integration Specialist for the Northern Great Plains Joint Venture. I'm based in Rapid City, and today I just wanted to give a quick update on a project that we're working on in West River, South Dakota. The JV has a CCCA with the South Dakota NRCS, and our grant was recently extended to complete a social science project that will help address the 9th step of the NRCS's conservation planning process, which is evaluating the plan. In collaboration with a research social scientist at Ducks Unlimited, Catherine Graham, we developed an in-person survey for South Dakota producers who have completed grazing-related EQIP practices within the last few years. And those practices could include prescribed grazing, brush management, herbaceous weed control, or range planting. The surveys aim to better understand the outcomes that folks have received from participating in EQIP, like did it help to achieve their management goals or resolve their resource concerns? Did it affect their profitability? Were there social outcomes like increased trust and communication? The survey also looks at their satisfaction with the program as a whole and with the NRCS, their future enrollment intentions or their intentions to participate in more conservation action or other conservation programs because they participated in EQIP, and then finally, the producer's perceived resilience to change. What we learn from the surveys will be used to recommend program, or practice or marketing changes to the South Dakota NRCS. We are lucky to have other partners involved with the project too. With help from conservation districts, we are piloting these surveys in Butte and Hawken counties. We plan to eventually include more Western South Dakota counties in the coming years after this pilot phase is complete. Our current method is to have the conservation district managers or employees complete the surveys in person. And then Catherine and I compile those data and we complete the analyses. We also have Dr. Tong Wong with SDSU Extension looped in to get her feedback. She also submitted our survey and our outreach materials to SDSU's Institutional Review Board, or IRB, for approval. And that just means that we'll be able to share our results with other conservation partners in the state. our pilot survey questions are complete and they are being implemented already. But if you're interested in reviewing those questions or in providing any kind of feedback, we would certainly welcome that, again, as we are in the pilot phase of the project. And we'll be able to make adjustments in the future if needed. And I'd be happy to chat more with anyone who's interested. I can certainly put my email in the chat, or I can take any questions that folks might have now. And that's all I have. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. We've looked around. Seeing no hands raised, then I will invite Matt Gatwa, who is the coordinator with South Dakota Pheasants Forever. Find his mic.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the time, Colette and everyone else. I also want to start by thanking NRCS for the partnership here in South Dakota. So they really make a lot of the work that we get done possible through our partnership. So they help support through the cooperative agreements a lot of our staff here. So our Farm Bill Biologist agreement has 17 positions. We are adding another one here as a Farm Bill Program Manager to help with capacity as we continue to grow here in the state. As the Habitat organization, we do any and everything related to habitat, not only for wildlife, but also for working lands. We have the Sage Grouse Initiative here in the state. So we'll actually be conducting interviews this week for the Farm Bill Program Manager. So we'll be getting that position hired on soon. Additionally, a couple other positions supported by NRCS here in the state between our easement habitat specialist. That one we're going through interviews here fairly soon as well. And another one that we got rehired was our monarch and native pollinator position, which I actually have the new candidate or the new biologist in that position, Carter Sargent, on the call. So I'll, at the end of my updates, I'll have him hop on and drop his contact information in the chat. So that was previously held by Kat Bell. So I think she worked a lot with many of you in the room and on the call. So really did a great job, and Carter's going to continue to carry that torch. So a few other updates here going on for Pheasants Forever in South Dakota. We are in the process of securing some additional funding to pair with some cooperative agreement with NRCS. So we'll be hiring 2 full-time prescribed fire staff here very shortly. Hope to have that done in early 2025, and we'll be having those staff working directly with farmers and ranchers across the state on implementing conservation programs, specifically looking at prescribed fires. So they'll help work with burn plans. Additionally, through those agreements, we'll be hiring on some seasonal staff that will be helping with getting fire on the ground by working with our prescribed burn associations. So that's really exciting stuff. Additionally, a couple other things we have going on. We were awarded one of the RCPPs this last year for accelerating prescribed fire here in South Dakota. So we'll be having some staff come on to help implement that project as well as providing a lot of financial resources for farmers and ranchers in the state, implementing prescribed fire, brush management, as well as prescribed grazing and other associated practices in order to facilitate addressing the woody encroachment, specifically from the eastern red cedar, that green glacier kind of marching up the Great Plains. So we're looking to slow that and maybe even stop it. So big goals and aspirations with that, but we're going to get after it and have it spread like prescribed fire, not wildfires. So excuse the pun, but additionally, some other things we have going on here in South Dakota. So we're nearing getting some staff hired on actually through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So they're going to be hiring on 4 staff for 2 years that will be working on native seed collection here in South Dakota. So I believe that was some of that BIL funding. So those positions will be coming out here shortly. And yeah, all sorts of things going on here in South Dakota. So Beyond that, again, our existing team of 17 Farm Bill biologists are out there helping deliver EQIP and CRP and hoping to continue providing opportunities for them, working with NRCS and other partners here in the state. So with that, I will turn it over to Carter Sargent to turn his mic on and say hi. And then if there are any questions after that, I will happily take them. So thanks again for the partnership and the time this morning.
Hey there, folks. Just wanted to jump on and say hi and introduce myself. I'm the new monarch and pollinator wildlife coordinating biologist, and that was exciting to hear about that native seed collection job. It's the first time I've heard of that, but that'll be a great initiative in the state because there's plenty of good native seed out there. I just sent my contact info. If anyone wants to reach out with any questions or concerns or anything you'd like to bring up, I'd be happy to entertain that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter, and thank you, Nat. So that was wonderful to make introductions and hear the update and all the things we've done this forever. Did anybody have any questions for Matt? Would any other organizations have anything they'd like to share at this time? If so, you may turn the camera and I'll recognize you. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back to
Not seeing any hands or people coming online. First off, just I appreciate everybody's attention and participation today. We've kept the majority of our audience throughout this, actually a little bit longer state tech meeting than we're used to. So I appreciate everybody sticking with us. We shared a lot about the partnership, a lot about what NRCS is doing here in South Dakota. We're getting a lot done. And I want to emphasize that again, NRCS cannot do this independently. We need the help from so many of our partners. And again, I just appreciate your involvement and your assistance and just being a part of the partnership. We're moving into some unknowns as we move into this next year. And some of it, we're just going to have to wait and see kind of how things go. We're still waiting on Farm Bill, and we've had some representation from some of our other agencies. NRCS is a little unique where my position is not politically appointed. So I'm still going to be here as we move into the new administration. There is going to be some change with some of our sister agencies, Farm Service Agency and Rural Development. You heard from Dana. We're really fortunate to have Dana as the Deputy Director for Rural Development, and Ryan is a new Deputy for Farm Service Agency. And they have stepped in to help with the transition, and that's what their role is really going to be. Besides helping the new executive directors as they come in, their role is to help provide some transition between administrations. So we are going to see some change. We're going to see a little bit of change. NRCS has the benefit. We're going to keep doing what we have been doing. Our conservation work really transcends a lot of politics, which is good. Even with so much of our discussion regarding climate smart and the practices there, we're continuing to do the work that we've always done in South Dakota. We're still working on soil health. We're still working on better crop rotation and pollinators and wildlife management, grass management. The benefit of all these practices that we do on a regular basis are beneficial to climate. They're beneficial to production. And it puts us in a really good spot. It puts the partnership in a really good spot moving forward to ensure that we're going to continue to see funding opportunities and the opportunities to fund partners and staff so that we can continue this important work here in the state. So thank you for all the hard work and support that has gone into maintaining what we're doing for conservation in South Dakota. And I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. And some of it we're just going to have to wait and see. But I know I'm remaining optimistic. We're going to have a good start of the year, and we're going to be able to continue getting conservation on the ground here in South Dakota. So thank you all again for joining us today. I'm thinking our next meeting is going to end up being probably mid-March. We'll be getting that information out here shortly on when our next meeting is. I'm hoping we're going to be able to transition into maybe an in-person meeting here soon, but March is still kind of iffy on how the weather is going to be. So we may have to play a little bit by ear, but we'll be sending that out shortly. And if anybody has any questions after the meeting, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm available. I know the leadership here will be available if you have questions. But again, thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day and have a Merry Christmas.